Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden. In today's video, I just took a shower, so that's why my face looks so tomato red. Look at my tomato red face. Look at my soaking wet hair. You see that, guys? I just took a shower. So today we're going to be going over the top 10 car brands that we all want to see make a comeback. Now, in terms of like what make a comeback means, mainly I'm talking about car brands that have been discontinued. They don't exist anymore. They don't make cars, but there are also a lot of here that still do exist, but they've just really fallen off. I mean, pretty much nowadays in 2024, unfortunately, pretty much every single car brand has fallen off, but there are still a couple that I think are putting out some good works. Chevy, I think Chevy's still doing pretty good. Ford, I think Ford's still doing interesting things. BMW, even though the new M5 is obviously a little, they're still pumping out some, like the G87's cool, the G80's cool, the G82's cool. So there are still some, but these are going to be car brands that have really fallen off or are just flat out just dead and they are not here anymore. So without further ado, let's get right into it with number 10. Also stay to the end if you want to hear my 15th apology for not uploading in a long time. Let's get into it, number 10. And that's Hummer. Weird one, because technically they just did make a comeback. They came out with a new Hummer, but it's a GMC. I don't understand what happened there. It's technically a GMC, but it's also kind of a Hummer. I don't know what they were trying to do there, but they made an electric vehicle, so I don't think they knew what they were trying to do there in the first place. Because what man or woman or other decided the best idea to bring Hummer, the company that made military vehicles that were huge, and their entire fan base is obviously people that enjoy huge, loud V8 bulletproof SUVs. Who decided the best idea was to come back with an EV? I don't understand. Does this truck sell well? I highly doubt it. I don't think so. Bring back true Hummer. We want to see big old SUVs, big old SUV truck combo things that have massive V8s in them and can take actual missiles to them. That's what we want to see, not a freaking EV. Ninth place is one of the ones where they're technically still here, but let's be honest, they've fallen off. It's Honda and Acura. Oh my goodness gracious, Honda and Acura in the 90s to early 2000s was an absolute powerhouse. We had cars like the Prelude, the Civic Type Rs, the Integra Type Rs, the S2000, the NSX, and then honestly even the Accord had some Type R variants to it, like the European Accords had Type R variants to it as well. And nowadays, what do we have? We have the Civic Type R and the NSX. And I don't even know if they're still making the NSX. Yeah, they are. They're still making the NSX, actually. So yeah, so the Civic Type R and the NSX. And I will be the first one to say it. The new NSXs, the second gen NSXs, whatever you want to call them, they are cool cars. I actually do like them a lot. I feel like people hate on them for no reason whatsoever. I think they're a great successor to the original NSX. And honestly, the Civic Type Rs are still great too. The FL5 Type R and the FK8 Type R are great cars. But they're teasing a new Prelude, but it's going to be an EV, so that doesn't count. The new Integra is absolutely abysmal in every single way, so that doesn't count. We don't have an S2000. The Accords are still kind of cool, but honestly, the 11th gen Accord has really fallen off in my opinion. They need to just, why are companies trying to make everything weigh 5 million pounds? Cut their weight. It's a Honda. It's meant to be light, okay? 8th place is a car brand that is just straight up dead though, and they've discontinued it. It's Pagani. Pagani's a supercar, or honestly hypercar brand at this point. I don't even think supercar would be a good word to use there. They're an expensive car brand. They make very high-end cars. Obviously you guys probably already know this. I don't know why I'm trying to explain this, but recently they got discontinued. However, I did see something about this new Pagani coming out called like the Pagani Utopia, I think it was what it was called. And it looked horrible. Just wanted to put that out there, but they were coming out with another Pagani, so maybe they're not dead. I really don't understand what's going on there. Hypercar brands die and then come back all the time, but either way, we want to see like true Pagani come back anyways. Even if they did come back with this Utopia car, I've seen pictures of it and it doesn't look that special. I want to see Zonda R, okay? That's what everybody wants to see. I want to see Wyra R's again, okay? Cars like that, cars that are insane track weapons, but also are precisionally, that's not a word, perfectly crafted with like, did you know most Paganis, their bolts are like $8,000? Like, that's what I want to see again, not this Utopia thing that like realistically nobody asked for. 7th place is another company that has been dead for quite some time now. They haven't been making something since I don't think like the 70s at this point. And honestly, even the cars that they did make when they were making cars back in the day, they didn't make that many great ones, but it's Mercury. Mercury obviously had the Cougar, and that was honestly pretty much it. I mean, I think they might have had a couple other things, but it was pretty much Ford's sister company. So you know how Chevy had Pontiac, Dodge had like Plymouth. Well, Ford had Mercury, and Mercury was a pretty cool company. They just took other Ford designs and added different things to them to make them kind of different and unique and cool, and that was a cool thing to see. I am an American. I like American cars. I've always excuse me, I had a burp there. Oh goodness. I've always liked American cars. I've always been a little bit of a fan of them. Obviously, I'm a massive JDM guy, but when it comes to the domestics, I want to see more domestic companies making some more muscle cars rather than just the big three. We have them. We have the Mustang, we have the Challenger, and we have the Camaro, and those are cool, obviously. But let's get some competition in here. 6th place is going to another company that kind of technically came back, kind of like Pagani and Hummer, but let's face it, it's not the same thing. Saab. Saab was a powerhouse in World War II. They made some insane airplanes, okay, some insane fighter jets, and that was great, good for them. And then after that, they're like, oh, wait a minute, we can't sell fighter jets anymore because there's no more world wars going on, so what are we going to do? And then they started making cars, and they took their ingenuity and their innovativeness when it came to their jets, and they put it in their cars, and it was insane. We had the Saab 9-3, or not the Saab 9-3, yeah, the Saab 900, that's what I'm thinking of. The Saab 900 was insane, dude. It had so many different weird little wacky features in it, but that honestly should have been brought along into other cars, like the whole key being in the center console so you don't hit it if you get into a car accident thing, or the engine being the wrong way so that it made more room for your feet seats down there. It was such a smart idea, and then they just kind of stopped making things like that. And then Saab, yeah, it didn't sell well because they started to just copy and paste other cars. They had like Saabs that were pretty much just Subaru Foresters and Saabs that were pretty much just Chevys, and it was, nobody really wanted that. But they did revive it. Some Chinese company revived Saab, and it's just not even close to the same. It's just another basic brain dead car company out of China. It's not special. 5th place is another car company that's technically still here, but we want to see it come back in terms of like what it was. Nissan was unbelievable, dude, in the 90s. I always say that BMW is my favorite car brand, and it is. I love BMWs because they're still making cool cars, but Nissan, if you ask me about like what my favorite car brand was during my favorite period, it was easily Nissan, and my favorite period is easily the 90s or early 2000s. They had insane cars, the Fairlady Z, GTRs, Skylines, or honestly, I said Skylines, I meant to say Silvias, but honestly, Skylines are kind of a whole different car from a GTR anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna throw that in there too. Skylines, Silvias, they had the Stage A, which I know is just like a one-off, pretty much just another Skyline, but still, the Pulsar, they had so many the Sentras, the Maximas, they had so many bangers, so many absolute hits, and then nowadays, what do they have that's actually worth talking about? The Sentra's not worth talking about anymore, the Maxima's not worth talking about anymore, the Altima isn't worth talking about anymore, the Silvia isn't here anymore, the GTR still is, but it's the same one from 2009. We have the new Nissan Z finally, but it's honestly not even that new. It's pretty much just another 370Z, but with a different motor. There's just not much going on. Honestly, Infiniti has more going on for it than Nissan does. And I know it's the same thing, but you get what I'm saying, man. Like, come on. They also had like the Laurel, the Gloria. What, I mean, those are kind of Infinitis nowadays with the M series and the I series or whatever they call them, but still, like, we want true Nissan. 4th place, I'm not going to touch up on this one too much because it's honestly pretty much the exact same thing I said about Nissan with this one. Mazda, again, pretty much just had some heavy hitters in the 90s, and they don't make anything nowadays. They had the RX-7, the Miata, they had the Mazda Speed cars, the Speed 3s and Speed 6s. They had, I know I don't really talk too much about trucks, but they had the Mazda trucks back then, and those were actually incredible. They were a really good competitor to the Tacomas, and now the Tacomas are pretty much the only Japanese truck that's even worth thinking about. They also had obviously other little things here and there. I'm just going to keep forgetting about cars here. The 323, for example, was a good one. The Protege was a good one. The MX-6 and the MX-3s were good ones. But either way, yeah, they had a lot of cool little innovative cars, and nowadays they have the Miata, and that's absolutely it. 3rd place, however, is going to pretty much Mercury, but just more extreme, Pontiac. Pontiac is actually one that died off not too long ago for the big American car brands. I think it was like 2010 that Pontiac closed their doors. I don't remember, but Pontiac hasn't been building cars for quite some time now, is pretty much what I'm trying to say. And that's really, really unfortunate. It's again, it's pretty much just like a Mercury scenario where it's the sister company to Chevy. There were Chevy's one-off cars. They had Firebirds, but most importantly, the Firebird is insane. Don't get me wrong. I freaking love Firebirds. I want one so bad. But most importantly, the GTO. The GTO, dude, a lot of people will say that the GTO started muscle cars. Like, they were the original muscle cars, the Pontiac GTO. I agree with that. I think the 65 GTO is an absolute beast, right? But like, why would they ever stop making it? I can't imagine that the previous GTO's sales were that bad. I feel like the newest GTO, that GTO, the 2000 GTO, that one had to have sold well, because I see them all the time and they're sick cars. So they had also the Pontiac Grand Prix and the Grand Ams. They had unbelievable cars, Pontiac, and they just stopped. I can't imagine their sales were that low, so why did they stop? Second place is the one that hurts the absolute most, though, without a doubt in my mind. It's Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi, you are the most disappointing car brand of all time, period. You killed your car brand so fast that I'm actually surprised. The 90s, Mitsubishi was an absolute powerhouse. The Galant, the Evos, the 3000 GT, the FTO. Obviously, there are again going to be a couple of cars here that I'm forgetting about, but you get what I'm trying to say. There are a lot of Mitsubishis back then that were sick. And nowadays, you want to know what they have? That's a cool car. Absolutely nothing. There is not a single car in Mitsubishi's lineup that's cool. And you want to know what's even worse about that? Mitsubishi I forgot about the Eclipse. Because I forgot about the Eclipse because they killed the Eclipse with the Eclipse Cross. Why? What? Galaxy, that's a stupider decision than GMC making the Hummer EV. That is the dumbest decision I've ever heard in my entire life. Oh, you know what? We have a lot of fans of this sports car that we made. You know what we should do? We should turn it into the exact opposite of what people that buy sports cars want to buy. An SUV. No one in their right mind is going to be like, okay, let's see here. I want to buy a sports car today. What am I going to go out and buy? Ooh, you know what? A crossover SUV. How did they know? How did they figure that out? It's an actual like running gag that car guys hate SUVs and minivans and stuff like that. Like it's a normal thing. And you changed your two-door sports car into one? They killed off the Evo, thank God, because I could imagine what they would have done to the Evo. It's painful. But first place, the car brand that I think we all want to see make a big comeback the most. This one might be crazy, but hear me out. It's Plymouth. Plymouth is the reason why I made this video. Every single time I think about Plymouth, I get happy, and then I get sad again when I think about that they're not making cars anymore. They had unreal cars, and they didn't have the craziest lineup. Like Pontiac had more cars, I would say, than Plymouth in terms of just sheer numbers. I think Plymouth just didn't make as many cars as they did. But every time Plymouth made a car, it was something awesome. The Roadrunner, the freaking, obviously the Hemi Cuda, the Coronet. Or was that a Dodge? I think that was a Dodge actually, but you get what I'm saying. It's pretty much just the same thing as Pontiac and Mercury again, but this time with Dodge. It's Dodge's sister company. But honestly, like the Pontiac Firebird, for example, is just another version of a Camaro. But in my opinion, I think the Camaro is a lot cooler. The Mercury Cougar is just another version of a Mustang. But in my opinion, I think the Mustang's a lot cooler. But when it came to Plymouth and their Hemi Cuda, which was just another version of a Challenger, pretty much. The Hemi Cuda was 10 times cooler in every single way. The Hemi Cuda is probably one of the coolest muscle cars of all time. It's probably one of the coolest cars of all time. And they killed off this brand. Again, I get why, I do understand that why this one would probably not sell that well. Like I said before, Plymouth didn't really make too many just daily driver cars. They pretty much, every time they made a car, it was pretty much something cool, you know? And so it makes sense why they didn't sell that well. But when you think about it, it's Dodge that's running the company. So they're using Dodge's money. So they can use Dodge to make the boring cars and make money from Dodge, and then use that money from Dodge to make the cool cars and badge them as Plymouths. And I don't know why they don't do that. It hurts so bad when I think about what happened with Plymouth. But ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of today's video of the top 10 car brands that we all want to see make a comeback. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below. And sorry for, again, not uploading in a couple of days. My head has been all over the place. And also, I just went up to New York to visit my sister for 3 days there. And whenever I go up there, I don't upload because, well, for obvious reasons. I'm not gonna, it's supposed to be a vacation, you know, I'm supposed to get out and go with my family and go enjoy it. So I'm not gonna upload during that. So that's for those 3 days. But for the other days, my car so a couple days ago, I was driving down the road and my car's front right tire blew up. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. What are we gonna do? I had to deal with all that mumbo jumbo. Pretty much what happened though, by the way, was my Integra, even though it doesn't look like it, it runs like -5 degrees of camber in the fronts, and then in the back it's not the same. And so in the fronts there's a lot of pressure on those tires, and so it was showing wire and I didn't even notice because I never can see it really because it's so low to the ground. So I didn't even know that it was showing wire, and so it just gave out. That's a normal thing. It happens. It sucked, but it could have been prevented if I paid attention to my tires, but I didn't. So it was annoying. But then after that, I was like, you know what? My brakes need to be changed anyway. So while I'm getting new tires put on it, I'll change the brakes, right? And so I had it at my uncle's house. I started doing the brakes, and every single bolt on that car is absolutely rotted out and would not come out unless you got, you know, those little special sockets that they dig into the bolts. Every single bolt on the brakes needed that socket, and it was an absolute nightmare. It took like 30 minutes just to get each one of these bolts off. So I get it off. I get the fronts done, move on to the backs, realize that the calipers are destroyed. Okay, I need a new caliper. So then I had to wait to get new calipers. Got the new calipers, put the new calipers on, bled the brakes, everything's good. I go to back up, I get finally done with this freaking job. It took like 5 days to get brakes done. It was a nightmare because of these stupid bolts. And anyway, I tried to back out and it's just not moving. It will not move. And so I jack up each corner of the car and I notice 3 tires will just not move for some reason. Obviously the car's parking brake was off, it was in neutral. It should have been moving is what I'm trying to say. And it just wouldn't, okay? It would not move at all. So I'm like, what in the world? I look underneath it, puddle of brake fluid. Both my 2 brake lines are destroyed and rotted out and leaking. So now I'm trying to get the new brake lines on. It's just so much baloney. The problem isn't that it's like a hard job or anything like that. It's I only have a very small window to actually go down and work on it because I don't have a car. So I have to ask other people for rides when they get home from like work or something. But then they also want to go to bed so because they have work the next day. And every single bolt is rotted out, and I'm doing it just on the ground. I don't have like a lift or anything. I'm just doing it on the ground on a lowered car. It is a nightmare. And then on top of that, most places don't have the parts that I'm trying to get. I personally have barely any tools too, so I have to keep borrowing tools from like my dad. It has been an absolute nightmare. My head's been all over the place with that, and so I've been mainly focusing on that until I get my car back up and running so that I can go do things again and I can clear my mind on that because it's just stressing me out. So hope you guys understand. It's a nightmare. Cars are a nightmare sometimes, but that's what happens, man, okay? Das vidanya, and have a nice night.